Donald Trump promised to hit John Deere with a 200% tariff on any products not made in the U.S.
John Deere is in big trouble after they made a really crazy and controversial move that has got a lot of people angry at them. Look, John Deere is a name that many people associate with American farming and agriculture, and lately the company has been on a downfall. The problem is that the choices made by John Deere to solve their problems have raised red flags for those who depend on their equipment. But how exactly? How will this affect you and me and the industry as a whole? And what exactly did John Deere do? Is this the start of a new era? Well, one of the things that has made everyone mad is the fact the company's decision to move production to Mexico, which is one of the most impactful changes and has sent ripples of concern throughout the agricultural community. This move involves shifting the manufacturing of important equipment lines, specifically skid steers and compact truck loaders, from Dubuque, Iowa to Ramos Arizpe, Mexico. But this isn't the first time. In 2022, the company already transferred tractor cab production to Mexico due to a challenging labor market. They also plan to move the production of mid-frame skid steer loaders and compact track loaders to a facility in Mexico by 2026. With all these changes, many are left pondering the fate of American manufacturing and the jobs that are tied to it. So let's talk about this in detail. But before we do that, subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out what's happening. At the heart of this relocation decision lies a glaring difference in labor costs between the United States and Mexico. While American production managers often earn wages above $56 per hour, their counterparts in Mexico make a mere $4.50 per hour. This staggering wage gap is a leading motivator behind John Deere's choice to relocate their operations, allowing them to slash manufacturing costs considerably and potentially increase their profit margins significantly. As John Deere strives to improve financial performance, this raises serious questions and concerns for American workers, as people worry about job security and economic stability in communities that heavily rely on these good jobs. The fallout from this shift has been both immediate and heartbreaking. Since September of 2023, John Deere laid off over 2,888 workers across Iowa and Illinois, with more than 2,100 employees losing their jobs as part of the preparation for this move in 2024 alone. These layoffs have impacted not only production staff, but also the local economies that depend on these jobs for financial livelihood and stability. The ramifications are clear and deeply felt within these communities. John Deere has attributed these layoffs to decreased demand for their products and broader economic challenges, highlighting a 20% drop in sales as a crucial factor. However, many employees and critics of the company suggest that the decision to move production is fundamentally behind these job losses. Numerous workers have voiced their skepticism regarding John Deere's explanations, especially considering the company's record profits during this period of upheaval. This mismatch between corporate success and worker layoffs has fueled feelings of frustration and abandonment among those who once regarded John Deere as a cornerstone of their communities. Beyond job relocations and layoffs, John Deere has introduced software locks in its machinery, which prevent farmers from conducting their own repairs. This significant shift in policy leaves farmers with no choice but to depend solely on authorized John Deere dealers for maintenance and repairs, completely altering the sense of autonomy that farmers had enjoyed for years when it came to caring for their equipment. The financial implications of this new strategy are noteworthy. John Deere's parts and services division is reportedly 3 to 6 times more profitable than their new equipment sales. Critics claim that by enforcing these software locks, John Deere effectively creates a monopoly on repair services, resulting in inflated costs for farmers who find themselves at the whims of dealer pricing. This approach undermines the independence of farmers and raises serious ethical considerations about corporate practices, where profits seem to take precedence over customer service and accessibility. For farmers, the consequences of these changes are dire. Many now face exorbitant repair costs coupled with frustrating delays in acquiring authorized technicians, delays that can be catastrophic, especially during essential farming seasons. For instance, one farmer shared a painful experience of losing 2.5 days of productivity just waiting for a dealer to address a computer issue with his equipment. Such incidents illustrate the growing reliance on complicated technologies that many farmers feel increasingly ill-equipped to manage independently or repair without external assistance. With technology becoming more intertwined with agricultural practices every day, a rising tide of concern has emerged among farmers about their dependence on systems they cannot control or repair by themselves. This escalating reliance brings up crucial questions about self-sufficiency in an industry where practical knowledge and hands-on skills have always been vital. The anxiety is palpable as tractors develop into sophisticated machines, driven by complex software rather than traditional mechanical understanding. Farmers cannot help but worry about losing their independence when it comes to maintaining their cherished equipment without help from outside experts. But what's the impact of all this? Well, the unfolding drama surrounding John Deere's decision to shift part of its manufacturing operations to Mexico has generated a whirlwind of political backlash that is difficult to ignore. Prominent figures, including former President Donald Trump, have stepped into the fray with sharp and pointed criticism. In a theatrical demonstration of his signature style, Trump has issued a bold warning. He is prepared to impose a staggering 200% tariff on all products made by John Deere if the company goes ahead with its plans to move operations south of the border. Just imagine the implications of this bold maneuver. A tractor that typically sells for $100,000 could skyrocket to an astonishing $300,000, sending shockwaves through the agricultural sector and impacting many more industries besides. During a recent policy roundtable held in Pennsylvania, Trump accused John Deere of inflicting harm on American farmers and the overall manufacturing sector by relocating jobs to Mexico. His threat isn't simply a hollow political gesture. It resonates with his broader America First initiative, which prioritizes the protection of American jobs and industries against the perils of outsourcing. Trump's message is crystal clear. If John Deere pushes forward with its plans, the company is likely to face severe financial consequences that could jeopardize its ability to compete effectively in the U.S. market. In response to the mounting pressure, John Deere has acknowledged the potential threat but remains firm, claiming their decisions are driven by economic necessities rather than political influences. They also point out their commitment to U.S. manufacturing, currently maintaining a workforce of approximately 30,000 employees across 60 facilities in the country. The backdrop of this tariff threat is steeped in complicated layers of global trade dynamics and the intricacies of local economies. Trump's approach highlights his administration's tendency to wield tariffs as instruments of economic protectionism, a strategy that has characterized much of his political career. However, industry experts caution that such drastic measures could have adverse effects, especially harming American farmers who depend on reasonably priced equipment. If these tariffs were to go into effect, they might unintentionally create advantages for foreign competitors while imposing burdens on domestic consumers who are seeking affordable options. Compounding this controversy is the issue raised by Senator Elizabeth Warren, who has vocally criticized John Deere for its apparent lack of support for the right to repair movement. She argues that the company's business practices hinder farmers' ability to fix their own equipment, potentially violating the Clean Air Act by obstructing essential repairs on emissions systems. Warren's remarks echo a growing sense of frustration among farmers who increasingly feel powerless against corporate giants such as John Deere. Many believe that the company places profit margins above customer service and community well-being. Warren's concerns resonate deeply with numerous individuals in rural America who view the right to repair as a vital aspect of maintaining independence and self-sufficiency within their farming operations. By withholding crucial repair information and necessary tools from farmers, John Deere is perceived as perpetuating a system where repairs become not only expensive but also frustratingly time-consuming. This reality further exacerbates the financial strains on already tight agricultural budgets, leaving many farmers struggling to keep their equipment up and running without breaking the bank. The heated debate surrounding Trump's tariff threat has elicited a range of opinions across the political landscape. Supporters of the tariffs argue that such measures are critical for safeguarding American jobs and ensuring that companies like John Deere remain anchored to domestic production. They believe Trump's position is a proactive stance against outsourcing that poses a risk to the livelihoods of countless workers in various manufacturing sectors. On the flip side, critics, including billionaire entrepreneur Mark Cuban, warn that imposing such tariffs could lead to consequences that inadvertently harm American businesses and consumers. Cuban has expressed his concerns, indicating that high tariffs will make it simpler for foreign competitors to gain market share from companies like John Deere. He describes Trump's strategy as insane, emphasizing that this could lead to skyrocketing prices for consumers without addressing the root issues that American manufacturing faces. But what does this mean for farming? Let's dissect it together. John Deere versus farming. Look, the right to repair movement is on fire, fueled by recent actions from John Deere that have sparked a passionate demand for consumer rights in the agricultural sector. This grassroots campaign is not just about fixing broken machinery, it symbolizes a much larger struggle for independence and control over the tools that farmers depend on to make a living and sustain their livelihoods. Imagine being unable to repair your machinery or modify it when you need to. For many, this is not just a frustration, it's an affront to their autonomy in a world increasingly dominated by technology and corporate control. Farmers are not sitting idly by as this situation develops. They are stepping up in unprecedented ways to reclaim their right to repair their equipment. Frustration among the farming community has reached a critical point, with John Deere's restrictive policies blocking their access to essential software and tools necessary for repairs. Many farmers are now taking the battle to courts and legislatures. They are filing lawsuits and lobbying for new laws that would safeguard their rights. Some of these determined individuals have even gone to extreme lengths, hacking their tractors to bypass the digital locks put in place by manufacturers. This act of defiance is more than just a technical workaround. It reflects a strong desire for independence and self-sufficiency amidst a rapidly evolving industry. Take, for instance, the DEF CON Security Conference, where a well-known hacker named Sick Codes showcased a jailbreak specifically designed for popular John Deere tractor models. This groundbreaking exploit gives farmers root access to their machinery, allowing them to modify and repair it on their own terms. Such innovative actions highlight the extremes to which farmers are willing to go just to gain back control over their workhorses, especially during those critical planting and harvesting seasons when every moment and resource counts. In response to the growing unrest among farmers and their supporters, several states are beginning to enact right-to-repair laws aimed at dismantling the barriers that companies like John Deere have erected. Colorado is at the forefront of this movement, having passed legislation that specifically targets agricultural equipment, mandating that manufacturers provide farmers with the necessary tools and information for repairs. However, even as these legislative efforts gain traction, they often face tough opposition from powerful manufacturers who argue that such laws could pose threats to safety and could compromise emission standards. Despite these hurdles, the momentum behind the right to repair movement shows no signs of slowing down. Advocacy groups are actively rallying around these issues, pushing for comprehensive laws that would compel companies to give up some control over the repair process. The stakes are incredibly high here. If these efforts succeed, we could witness a fundamental shift in the relationship between manufacturers and consumers, not just in agriculture, but in many other sectors as well. Beyond the halls of legislation, the right to repair movement has also made its way into the courtroom. Farmers are engaging in legal battles over allegations of antitrust violations that revolve around John Deere's restrictive repair practices. A significant case exemplifying this struggle is Forest River Farms versus Deere & Company, in which a North Dakota farm has accused John Deere of monopolizing the repair market. This lawsuit represents a broader fight against corporate practices that limit consumer choices and drive up repair costs, illustrating just how deeply rooted the frustration runs among farmers. As these legal proceedings unfold, they shine a spotlight on systemic issues within the agricultural equipment industry, issues that will resonate beyond just farmers to impact rural communities on a larger scale. The outcomes of these legal battles could establish critical precedents regarding consumer rights in an increasingly digital world filled with complex machinery and high-tech innovations. The financial impact of John Deere's policies is significant and staggering. Farmers are already operating on razor-thin profit margins, and the rising cost of equipment combined with exorbitant repair fees create a heavy burden. According to estimates from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, farm income could drop by as much as 25% this year due to escalating operational costs, which are worsened by limited access to affordable repair options. This financial strain doesn't just put individual farms in jeopardy, it poses a serious threat to the stability of entire rural economies. With operational costs climbing, small farms are facing existential challenges that could result in further consolidation within the agricultural industry. The increasing difficulty in maintaining profitability may force many small-scale farmers out of business, leading to fewer farms available to produce food and reducing the diversity of our food system. This trend of consolidation carries serious consequences, not only affecting food production, but also weakening community ties and local economies that thrive on diverse agricultural practices. Moreover, the restrictions imposed by John Deere have ripple effects that extend beyond farming. Independent repair shops, which serve as vital employment sources in rural areas, find themselves squeezed out of business as farmers are compelled to turn exclusively to authorized dealerships for repairs. This reliance on authorized services can result in job losses in small towns where every job truly matters for economic sustainability and vitality. This is a crucial thing, but is it going to be solved? Well, that is a complex question. Let me explain. The conflicting narratives of John Deere. John Deere's current situation perfectly illustrates a troubling divide between the company's impressive profits and the simultaneous decision to lay off thousands of dedicated workers. In the year 2023, John Deere announced record profits reaching a staggering $10.1 billion, which signifies an incredible 42% increase from the previous year. While these financial figures might make it seem like the company is thriving, this success story is greatly overshadowed by recent layoffs that have left many people questioning the ethics surrounding profit prioritization over the well-being of employees. The United Auto Workers, commonly known as the UAW, has been very vocal in denouncing these actions, arguing that such drastic measures reveal a deep-rooted corporate greed that blatantly ignores the livelihoods of hardworking individuals. The stark contrast between John Deere's record profits and its decisions regarding its workforce is glaring. Even as the company boasts about its financial achievements, it has laid off over 1,500 workers across its factories located in Iowa and Illinois. This shocking contrast is even more pronounced, considering the company projects profits of around $7 billion for 2023. This raises some pretty uncomfortable questions. How can a business that is clearly doing well justify cutting jobs? Critics argue that these layoffs are not simply a reactive measure to market fluctuations, but instead reflect a corporate culture that values shareholder gains over the welfare of its employees. The UAW has labeled these layoffs as nothing short of an insult to working-class people in Iowa and Illinois. They emphasize that there is absolutely no justification for outsourcing American jobs to countries that offer cheaper labor, especially when the company is financially robust. The frustration from the union's perspective is completely understandable. They see these job cuts not just as harmful to those who have been laid off, but also as detrimental to the communities that rely heavily on John Deere for their economic stability and livelihood. Adding fuel to this already heated fire is the eye-popping compensation package granted to CEO John May, which skyrocketed to $26.7 million in 2023. This represents an increase from $20.3 million in the previous year, creating an enormous divide between executive compensation and the realities facing everyday workers. This significant rise in executive pay during a time when layoffs are occurring only intensifies perceptions of corporate greed among employees and advocates. Critics are quick to point out that while employees are losing their jobs, top executives are pulling in huge rewards. This unfortunate situation highlights a concerning disconnect between leadership and the dedicated workforce. The sentiments expressed by the UAW reinforce this idea, as they argue that awarding such extravagant compensation to executives stands in stark contrast to the struggles faced by ordinary workers, the very people who contribute to the company's significant financial success. This widening gap raises serious ethical questions about corporate governance and accountability, especially in an industry that is heavily reliant on skilled labor to produce its products. Compounding the situation are John Deere's extensive stock buybacks, which have amassed over $43 billion in the past 2 decades. Just in 2023 alone, the company spent more than $7.2 billion repurchasing its own shares. This strategy primarily benefits shareholders and executives instead of investing in the stability of its workforce or making necessary repairs more affordable for farmers. Critics assert that this approach exhibits a short-sighted fixation on quick financial returns while neglecting the long-term sustainability of the workforce and the overall health of the company. By choosing stock buybacks over reinvestment in its human resources or infrastructure, John Deere risks undercutting its operational effectiveness and alienating its most valuable asset, its employees. The ongoing situation at John Deere serves as a microcosm of larger trends that are affecting American agriculture and corporate America at large. It amplifies the tension between profit motives and the rights of workers, raising urgent questions about the future of farming in a world driven by technology. So what does all of this mean to the industry? What's going on with John Deere isn't just a hiccup in the farming world, it's a wake-up call for industries everywhere. Look around and you'll notice that companies are starting to lock down their products with software barriers and limit our options, all in a bid to boost profits. This trend is more than a mere annoyance. It's a serious concern about how much power corporations hold over essential goods and services, paving the way for problems that could ripple through everything from cars to household gadgets. In an age where technology evolves at breakneck speed, we're seeing more and more companies cling to proprietary software and restrictive repair practices. They're creating hurdles that make it tough for customers to get repairs done or modify their products. This approach not only cuts out competition, but also leaves consumers vulnerable to inflated prices since there aren't many alternatives. Just look at the John Deere saga. It's a glaring example of how these practices stretch far beyond farming machinery, threatening the very essence of consumer rights and control. Technology has turned agriculture into a high-tech arena, bringing both amazing possibilities and some serious challenges. Modern tractors aren't just big machines anymore. They've transformed into smart devices loaded with advanced software that requires a special set of skills to operate and fix. This shift raises crucial questions about whether farming is still accessible and affordable for those who need it most, the farmers themselves, who now have to juggle tech know-how alongside traditional skills. As tractors become heavily reliant on software, farmers are expected to understand intricate digital frameworks instead of just simple mechanical parts. This rapid change can leave seasoned farmers feeling alienated, especially if they've spent generations honing hands-on skills. On top of that, learning to manage such technology can be expensive, creating a financial strain that could widen the gap between massive agribusinesses and smaller family farms. We need to figure out how to integrate technology in a way that boosts productivity without throwing unnecessary roadblocks in the path of folks who have dedicated their lives to farming. The profit-maximizing mentality of John Deere raises serious ethical questions about what it means to be a responsible corporation, especially as farmers grapple with rising costs just to stay afloat. While the company pours its resources into rewarding shareholders with stock buybacks and executive bonuses, countless farmers are left dealing with skyrocketing expenses and shrinking profits. This situation doesn't just threaten individual farmers' livelihoods, it endangers the overall health of the agricultural industry. The American dream. Picture it, a life of prosperity thanks to hard work and determination. Feels like a distant fantasy for many in rural communities. Farmers are caught in a tightening grip of climbing input costs, unpredictable market prices, and restrictive corporate policies that force them to pay through the nose for repairs and maintenance. It's time to rethink how we support American agriculture and protect the rights of those who grow our food. What kind of future do we want? At its heart, the John Deere situation poses a critical choice for all of us. Do we want to accept a future where corporations have unchecked authority over our lives, or do we take a stand for our rights when it comes to repairs and modifications? This decision impacts more than just farming equipment. It taps into vital discussions around consumer autonomy, innovation, and fairness in the marketplace. As awareness grows about how software locks and restrictive policies affect us, it's clear that collective action is urgently needed. The push for the right to repair is gaining steam, as voices from all corners come together to demand transparency from companies. This movement aims not just to empower individuals, but also to create a space where innovation can flourish unimpeded by corporate interests. Ultimately, the choice we make will influence how we relate to technology and corporations in the future. Will we champion a world that prioritizes accessibility and consumer empowerment, or will we let corporations dictate our options? The power lies in how actively we engage with these issues, demanding change, backing legislation that safeguards our rights, and making thoughtful choices about the products we use day in and day out. The stakes are high, but the potential for a fairer and more equitable future, where we hold the reins over our tools and lives, is even higher. Right? What's your thoughts on this? Let's know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next video.